Thank you. Arigato.
The Your Own Pay Podcast Network. Inspiring, motivating, and educating entrepreneurs around the world. It's Damashe and Michael. Just talking tech.
Android Q. You've been on it for 24 hours now, right? Roughly. What are your initial thoughts? And let's be raw and honest.
So, I should preface everything I have to say about it by saying, to be fair, I did not spend a ton of time on P in the first place. Like, the phone was there, but I wasn't really using it a lot. I haven't noticed a ton of differences other than a few. I think they added new permissions in Q. So, like, I've been seeing those. I've been setting up apps, more like, similar to the iOS style, alerts about permissions. One thing I've noticed generally, and I don't know if it's a Q thing or if it's just, my actual configuration, because I haven't heard you complain about this, so I suspect it's probably something on my end with just the way I have things set up. But sometimes it seems a little sluggish, like TalkBack seems a little sluggish, like trying to move around the home screen or going through Chrome and browsing links, browsing a web page. And I'm exploring the screen with my fingers now. I'm not doing a lot of flicking. So, and it seems to be sort of the same issues I remember from years ago with Android, which is always my number one complaint, which is the screen reader is not as responsive as VoiceOver tends to be on iOS.
Now, I have seen that actually in some places, most especially on web pages. One thing to do or to look into is look for Chrome Canary, I think is what it is, the latest beta version of Chrome, because you will get a better web view experience with Chrome Canary than what you get with the default Chrome app. That's one thing, and that's been a complained
truism.
Yeah, it's been complained about by a lot of people, and that's how I found out about the Chrome Canary thing. Apparently there's a way you can go and switch the web views within your app, within all your apps to Chrome Canary. I have not went through this process, but that should help with that if you're getting sluggishness inside of apps itself versus Chrome. And then, what TTS are you using?
Right now I'm using Elements.
Okay, me too. The other thing, and some people are not happy with this, I'll link to the Telegram group in the show notes at yourownpay.com/DM40, because that's the best way to get some support. But the other potential thing that you can use is Commentary, which is an alternative screen reader. I have found it to be more snappy than TalkBack. For example, if you touch your screen, you get responses a little bit faster than one might expect. However, it is in alpha stage before beta. Like it is being developed, and new APKs are pushed roughly every day or every other day, and there are changes and things broken, and so I still have TalkBack obviously installed, but that might be another solution. But yeah, I get the sluggishness. It's not VoiceOver, that's for sure.
That's what I've noticed in my attempts to use, and I've installed, I had certain apps installed already, but I've been trying to actively use it. One thing I did figure out along this journey is Signal on Android. So you cannot apparently have Signal set up on two different phones. That is not a thing that they want you to do. Because as soon as I got it switched over to the Android phone, I went back and picked up my iPhone later, because I needed to charge the Android phone, and I went to open Signal, and expecting that I would probably see the messages that were going back and forth on Signal on Android. And what I got instead was, this device is disconnected. Your Signal voice is being used elsewhere. I was like, what? So that was unexpected. I did also figure out the issue with Signal and entering the 6-digit code there that me and you were chatting about yesterday. Basically, the number pad is actually on the screen, but for some reason, TalkBack is not seeing it. So with a little trial and error, I sort of figured out where it was on the screen, so I was able to type in the 6 digits.
That's good to know. So your first initial impressions are this is still sluggish over the years, or like it was years ago.
I would just say, yeah, generally, I'm not going to say like it was years ago. Like TalkBack itself is infinitely better than what it used to be. It's just one issue I've always had with Android, just in general, as a screen reader user, is that it doesn't seem to be consistently as responsive as what I've gotten used to with iOS. And you get random freezes. I don't know if they're actually like crashes in the background or not, because there's not as much indication there. But you get random freezes where like, oh, it's not telling me anything while I'm trying to move around the screen. I got to wait for a second.
That's frustrating.
And chill. And you know, I'm not as harsh on it, as I once probably would have been, mostly because I'm also on the iOS 13 beta. And it's a little shitty too, to be honest, from a voiceover user perspective. Like it's a little rough too.
Mallory has it on her iPad and on her phone, and I haven't picked it. The only thing I've noticed with iOS 13 beta, and I haven't really, as I said, done much with it because I've been primarily on beta, is if I turn voiceover on, because typically she's not a voiceover user, it takes a few seconds for anything to respond, like for the voice to respond, and that could just be her setup. I can hear the clicks as I flick my finger around, and then speech comes up. So that's been an interesting.
So that is an actual issue right now with the current betas is, you know, like from Reboot, for example, like it seems to take a while for voiceover to like get its shit in gear and start responding properly. It is beta. But again, to be fair about that, it is 100% beta. So, and Apple even had a warning out for people, like if you're a thrill seeker, don't do this. And I would even say that public beta, the first public beta, really should not have been a public beta. Like I honestly don't think it should have, because it's very rough around the edges. Like from a user perspective in general, and then especially if you're a voiceover user.
Yeah, Mallory was telling me, so she uses a Fitbit, and she messaged me one time on my way, like I was at work and on my way downstairs to catch the bus. And as I walk in the elevator, I just shot her a quick message. Hey, just disconnect your watch from the watch app and reconnect it. And then like an hour later, I'm like, oh wait, you have a Fitbit. That won't do any good. But she's getting phone call notifications on her Fitbit, but she's not getting messages notifications on her Fitbit. So yeah, it's little quirks like that.
Yeah. There's something weird about messages though, because I was messaging Amanda actually. I sent her a couple of iMessages, and she told me for some reason whenever she tapped on my messages, like in the list view, she would tap on my message thread so she could open it up. It would just crash messages. So
were you sending her links? Yep. So Mallory sent Andrew a link to an app in the App Store today, and whenever Andrew, and he's on iOS 12, whenever Andrew taps on Mallory's message thread, it goes black and messages closes, and you have to reopen messages. So must be an issue with the way that links are processed in iOS 13 to iOS 12.
Did not think about that until you said it, but I was sending her links. And I should have thought about that, because I haven't actually experienced issues sending people messages otherwise. But I was sending her a couple of App Store links actually.
Send Tia a link. No, don't, because I think it breaks your whole message thread. I don't know. I'm gonna have Mallory send Andrew another message later,
because I have actually sent Tia a link, and she didn't have a problem, but there was another message that came sort of like behind that, and it wasn't crashing for her. So it has to be just that if the most recent, it must be the most recent message that it's crashing. Fun times, man.
Fun times. And that's the life of beta. Don't join it if you're not willing to let shit crash. Speaking of Android, good news. Have my first Kelly & Co. presentation on the 22nd of July. We're going to do, as soon as I reply to this email, he emailed me and said, can you do it? Yeah, I'm going to make it work. And we're going to talk about Android on there. So I can now say that I will be an Android expert, sharing my knowledge with others, which is an adventure.
So, two things. One, everybody check out we'll put a link in the show notes to where you can go listen to the episode on the 22nd. It's going to be on the radio, man, talking about Android. What I'm curious to see, and it's just because I know how our people can be, I'm curious to see what the reaction is going to be if this episode circulates through to the people that have been on Android from day one that never used the iPhone, or they're diehard Android people. Are they going to start yelling at you because you said something and it didn't actually make sense because it wasn't 100% right? Because you Android parvenu, you just got here. We've been here through the struggles.
Yeah.
We remember only being able to dictate into the phone because we couldn't type on the keyboard. I've been here since the days of, if you had TalkBack, if you had the screen reader on, then you had to get a phone with a physical keyboard. Like, are those people?
I've been here since the days that you didn't have the volume toggle, so you couldn't restart TalkBack if you needed to.
I remember those days. Actually, I was there too.
Right.
Way
Me
to
too.
restart,
I've been there.
There used to not be any way. This is funny as hell to think about. There used to not be any way to quickly start TalkBack. Like if you didn't start it up when you first booted the phone up for the first time, it was over, man. This is over.
And he doesn't mean just booted it up. He means like when you set that something up.
Yeah. Thanks for the clarification, because I do mean not boot up. Not, let me turn it off and turn it back on.
Yeah.
No, it's like, no, from set up screen, like from scratch, like you're setting it up. Yeah, if you didn't do that two-finger tap and hold, you were screwed, man. You better get some eyes to get that on.
So we've come a long way from where it's been.
To be honest, Android is nice. And one thing that having the Android device in the house and having you actually switch over to Android full time has really started to make me look very hard at is cross-platform services. I've always been a proponent of both open source software, 'cause I like it, and having things that are cross-platform. But as I've gotten older, and everything in the house is Apple, so it's like, well, this works on my phone and on my iPhone, on my Mac, so it's cross-platform. I'm happy, I'm good. I don't touch Windows anymore.
Right.
But I do like for things to be cross-platform. So something like Todoist, like I've gotten back into Todoist mostly because, like, hey, it's in both places that I want to use it.
It's everywhere.
Still kind of
can't get away from it. I've even got it on the Google Home Hub.
It's a little too far. I thought about doing that though, honestly. The only thing is, like, I actually don't get to use the Google Home Hub. Like, it's in there. It rotates a bunch of pictures out of Tia's account. She occasionally will play music on it, although she stopped doing that because the kids like to go in there and say, no, because the kids like to go in there and say, hey, Google, stop. And then they run out laughing because it's funny, because they're able to make it stop. So, yeah. My daughter actually is having conversations with Google. She'll go and say, hey, Google something. So I've been sort of trying to keep an ear on that to see how well she progresses, because her speech has gotten, ridiculously good, over the past 9 months or so. Like, she's gotten really good. So I'm curious to see, how much yakking at Google, how much is actually able to understand as well.
Well, and I don't know if you knew this, Mike, but how old is she?
Questions like that, man. I don't remember.
Sounds good.
She's 5.
And 5. All right. Hey, that happens to any dad or parent. I've been asked, how old's your kid? 6? Oh, wait, no, he's 9.
Yeah, man.
But what I was going to say is you can have, or she can have Google tell her stories, and there's some interactive stories, which is pretty fun that the kids seem to like, that you can get access to. So, I'm not sure if that's something she's interested in, but you can say, hey, Google, let's go on an adventure. Cancel. I don't want to go on an adventure right now. The last episode we published was back on April 7th, and we were talking about jobs then, and a few other things. I was too lazy to go back and look. I don't know if you went back and looked, but you mentioned cross-platform. One thing that I really love about Android is where I'm working at, there isn't the restrictions that a lot of companies give you. So if I need to install software, I can just install it, and then I write up a quick note, hey, supervisor person, I installed this software. Here's why I installed it. But I can also use my phone at work almost all day long as I'm getting my shit done. And so what's really nice is I can use messages.google.com/web and be able to message my boss who's in the other room, typically when he's on the air, and let him know, hey, we've got this sponsor on the line, or we've got this caller on the line, and do that all from the computer, which is nice because it's in Windows. And yes, you can do that with Mac and iPhone, but you can't. I mean, you can do it with Mac and Android too, is what I was going to say, because if I come home, I can just jump on messages on the web, and it's the same familiar and nice experience
of Android compared to iOS. And it always has really sort of been an advantage to Android compared to iOS for mobile platforms, is the fact that it can connect up to, really the only requirement is that you have Chrome running somewhere.
I am interested in the your phone or my phone or whatever it is on Windows 10 when I finally get a Windows 10 computer, which should hopefully happen soon. Because I think that'll be a interesting experience for sure. I know you're not Windows, but
yeah, but so to be fair about it, like Mike, if I didn't know you, to be honest, like if I did not know you, I probably would have a Windows 10 computer running somewhere, somehow in the household, because I would need to be at least peripheral. Yeah, I can't get that word out. I would need to be aware of, kind of how things were going, because I hate to talk to people from a point of ignorance, right? Is, I'm telling you like, oh, Windows 10, I've heard it's gotten better. Like, I can't tell people a lot about it, but thanks to your experience, and because you're a person like me, where you're going to investigate how things work, and you're going to pick out the little issues that are bugs as opposed to lack of skill, which is a lot of times the problem with some people, is a lack of skill, not that the thing is broken.
I love how nice that is.
But I'm able to, and now you're getting a job, man. You got a job. I should say you're getting a job. Hey, Mike got the job, people. We didn't say that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. By the way, I got the job, people. No longer in a work study program. Man, I feel like all my podcast listeners already know that, but I haven't I was telling Mallory, I'm like, Damashe and I are going to sit down tomorrow. We're going to record an episode. She goes, well, that'd be nice. You haven't recorded any podcast content in a while. And then I went and looked. I'm like, yeah, the last time I recorded Access Android apps was back in June, and the last time Damashe and I recorded was in April. It's about time.
It's about time. But yeah, because you got the job, I'm like, you've already shared some interesting things with me about Windows 10 and Windows in general. Like, I'm familiar enough with Windows 7 that I could step on that now and be okay. But 10, 10 is something I haven't really looked at, because I haven't wanted to, I haven't wanted to invest the money into a Windows 10 computer, because nobody in the house actually wants one. Got to buy Tia an iPad Pro. She does not want a computer. Especially since iOS 13 gives you this little mouse thing. I was like, oh, okay. But I feel like I get to keep up sort of with what's going on with Windows without having to use it on a regular basis. And to be fair about it, I still tell people, like, in the corporate world, in the typical corporate, environment, you're going to be on Windows. Like, I don't care that you like Mac. I love Mac, but I know if I go work for a lot of places I could get a job at, like, I'm going to have to use Windows. There's no getting around that whole process there.
Yep. Now, if any of you amazing listeners know of an equivalent, and I think I've found something, but I'm not going to say anything yet because I can't. I haven't. But if you know a Hazel equivalent, I want to talk to you. If you know what I'm talking about. File management in Windows 10.
You think you found
Automated
something?
File management, Windows 10.
I said, you think you found something?
I think I found something, and I will drop you a link, but it's not as robust as what Hazel is. And like, it'll do, if you put a file in this folder, then move it over here, but not if you put an MP3 in this folder, then put it in this folder. And if you put a wave in this folder, put it in that folder, which you can do with Hazel. So yeah, I'm trying to find something that would be super equivalent. Although I want to give people a quick lesson before I jump into my favorite tool that I'm using that's going to help us pay a little bit of bills here in a minute. If you automate too much of your work, then there's nothing for you to do at work. And I know that sounds a little silly, but I started automating what I do in the morning that used to take me 40 minutes. Now it takes me 15 minutes. And I'm like, well, what do I do now for the next 20 minutes? Because I mean,
get on Reddit.
I figured out what to do, but you know what I'm trying to say?
Get on Reddit, man. You do what computer nerds have been doing for years. They figure out how to automate a process, and, the boss says, oh, okay, I know this takes about 4 hours. These guys figured out how to cut that down to like 35 minutes. So he spends the next 3 hours and 25 minutes on the internet, on forums. That's what you do, man. Hey.
All right. I needed to remember.
Go check out our Discourse and start, customizing or something, poking around in the settings. Do something.
There we go. Yeah. Real quick, if you're interested in it, I signed up for it again yesterday because it took advantage of the NFB special that they had. I don't know if it's still there now. If you head on over to yourownpay.com/DM40, you can get access to Aira for a free month, and you'll be equivalent to, or you'll be giving me access to the same amount of credit as what you pay. So if you join their intro plan at $30, then I'll get a $30 credit on my next bill. And it has become a very useful tool, most especially at work, when I'm trying to get stuff done. And today, let me tell you a real quick story, and then we'll get back into it. Me and Titan decided, we're going to disappear for a quick 20 minutes. Well, it was only supposed to be like 8.5 to 10 minutes, but it turned into 20 minutes because we got a little mixed up and I ended up 3 blocks off of where I was supposed to be. And I'm like, well, this doesn't look right. No pun intended. So I called up Aira and said, hey, where am I? And of course I could have used Lazzarello to tell me where I am. But the beautiful thing about Aira is I had someone telling me there's this store across the road from you. There's this right next to you. And I was able to instantly know, okay, I'm on the corner of Anderson and 3rd instead of Anderson and Broadway, which is where I was supposed to be. So if you're interested in an amazing tool to give you some assistance in being able to live life to your fullest, I think that's someone's trademarked term. But anyways, check out yourownpay.com/DM40. Damashe, did you by chance take a look at the show notes that we have here?
Some stuff
in Google Docs.
you hadn't made it down.
Oh, I see that here now.
Get down.
Yeah, I see that now. DM1, we talked about managing that inbox. Are you at inbox 0? Because I'm not.
Not ever.
I tried to, but my equivalent to inbox 0 is be able to be productive now. So I jump in my inbox and I'm not concerned about my inbox anymore because I can get access to the messages that I need in a quick time.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've settled on. I have I've set up several rules in my Gmail so that certain emails automatically get filed. Some of them are going to specific labels, and some of them I just have a sort of, bypass the inbox and archive it, because if I need something, I'm going to search for it and then that thing will pop up. That has been the advantage of Gmail for the longest, is that their search has always been great. People, I feel like one thing that happens with email, and I don't think we discussed this in that first episode, is that I feel like a lot of people end up hung up on email today because they're still thinking about the way email was 15 years ago. Where you had POP, so all your email was on your computer, right? So that's one difference, one major difference. So if you didn't keep track of everything and try to file, and I used to be one of these people too, man, I had crazy folders, crazy numbers of folders, so I could just move the emails over into these folders and know where everything was. And I was like, I could just search for it. I can absolutely just search for it. I've mentioned it before on the show. I keep the Gmail app, which is currently broken in this current beta on iOS. But I keep the Gmail app installed on my iPhone primarily for the search capabilities, because the Apple Mail search has been terrible for so long on mobile. On the Mac, it's actually pretty decent, but on mobile, it's always been kind of slow and iffy. So
sluggish. Yep.
Yeah, I'm still using G Suite too.
Right. Me too. Are you using SaneBox?
So I have dabbled with SaneBox and left, and I think I went back again and left. It's like
Yep. Me too.
same box is nice. Like same box has a lot of good features. I don't think the benefits to me are worth what I would have to pay to get the features that I like about Sanebox. And I can set up filters. I did sort of cheat. The last time I set up Sanebox, I set it up specifically so I could go through and have it kind of do some automatic filing, so I could look at the messages that were automatically going to like the same later folder, and then go tailor my Gmail rules to basically mimic what they were doing, so all that crap bypasses my inbox anyway.
Well, that's what I get from moving VoiceOver. So do you hear when I move into a paragraph, does it say Michael Babcock is editing near you? Okay. So for those of you who are obviously just listening to us, we both have a Google Docs document open that we're trying to work out of, and I think we're doing fairly good. We've covered a lot of this stuff in here. Well, some of the stuff. But whenever you move into the same line, it says Damashe Thomas is editing near you, or in my case, it says I'm editing near Damashe Thomas, which is actually quite convenient. Like, if Damashe was actually changing shit, I would expect it to be changing.
Right. No, that's one of the benefits of Docs. That's why so many people use Google Docs, and we've had this conversation before. I know for certain, don't know if we actually published it in the show or not. So I will reiterate the point and not spend too much time on it. But that is one of the reasons that Google Docs has become such a beast in the industry of collaboration, and everybody is still virtually playing catch up. Like, I don't care who it is, Apple, Microsoft, everybody's still playing catch up to that Dropbox. Fucking Dropbox, man. Is still playing catch up, because as there is sort of like, Apple Maps and Google Maps, right? Like Google has such a big lead on that thing that by the time Apple started doing their own mapping, it's like, yeah, they're not bad. They're not terrible, but they're still not Google Maps, because all Google is doing now is just building in more and more features. Whereas Apple is still in the process of trying to get the map data, like getting their own custom map data. So everybody's playing catch up to Docs. I'm glad that they actually have really good screen reader support, so that I do hear, Michael Babcock is editing near you, or things like that, because it used to be a time that Google Docs wasn't really all that useful to a blind person, and you most certainly did not get that type of feedback.
Not at all. That's for sure. Damashe, what are you using for backing up WordPress?
Everything. Nothing. All of the things, man. All of the things. So it depends. I have a couple of client sites where I'm using Managed WP. And what that is just a plugin that you install, and then it's fairly reasonably priced. Mike, you'll be familiar with WPM UDev and their dashboard plugin. So Managed WP is very much like that. Has some features that the WPM UDev does not have. But the nice thing about it is that you can use it for free, and you only pay for the features that you actually want to use. So like for a couple of clients, I'm backing up their sites to Google Drive using Managed WP to kind of handle that whole process. Other sites, I have like ours, well, not our site, it is our site, the Blind Employment Solutions website. It is ours. It just doesn't have anything to directly do with the show. But like that site, like I have a cron job that's running that does basically a database dump every couple of days. And moves it off to a folder, and I have a recurring reminder set to go in and pull those down and move those off somewhere else. Mostly because I'm still kind of, the whole infrastructure with that site is still kind of in flux. So that's what I'm doing there, just to have the database backed up. You can find an article on the internet that will argue both sides to this point. Oh yeah, you just got to worry about the database when you're backing up your WordPress site, because the whatchamacallit, the files that export that you can get by going to tools and export, it's not all that important, because all you got to do is reinstall all the same plugins and everything's back the way it was because of your database. Mike laughed because that's not 100% true. But you can get people that argue that point, just like you can get some people to say, well, if you're not backing up the entire site in a zip file with all of the XML and blah, 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 then it's not a real backup. I sort of follow along the lines of do whatever you feel like you need to do, is sort of my philosophy. And the reason is because I sort of go on a site by site basis, right? There's some sites where, I need to back up everything. And there are some sites where it's like, I can just grab the database because essentially everything else that comes behind that, all of the, structure, and all of that with the theme and all of that is in a Git repo. So I just redeploy from that Git repo, upload the database, and I do have everything back the way it was.
The point is, though, do some sort of backup. Like, you never know when shit's going to hit the fan.
Absolutely do a backup. That's true for anything. Do a fucking back it the fuck up. All right.
Yeah. I was updating 8 different WordPress sites today, 7 of which are on WordPress 4.6, 1 of which is on WordPress 5.2. And I'll tell you what, I was going through my little click here, go there, do this, add this file, because it was the same exact thing on all the sites. And then all of a sudden I got to a WordPress 5.2 with Gutenberg. I'm like, wait, I got to remember how to use this thing now.
So see. Yeah, so
really
something like that is where managed WP probably. Although I gotta be honest, I'm thinking about kind of switching away from using them just because their interface is a little horrible. And the more and more I try to do in there, the more and more I realize like it's sort of crap. But I have switched to using Chrome full time, so that makes it a little bit better. Chrome is super nice, man. It's just a fucking resource hog on desktop.
Yeah.
Chrome Canary though. Yeah. I actually do have Chrome Canary on the Mac.
If you haven't yet, check it out.
I have the Chrome beta on Android. I just haven't started using it. But I will take that advice and try using the beta of Chrome.
Do you want to pay some of your bills?
Speaking of backing up your websites and WordPress and hosting and all of those things that you need to have, the tool that me and Mike both use, or the company, the cloud server provider that me and Mike both use, is DigitalOcean. And if you go to yourownpay.com/DM40, there will be a link. It is a referral link, that gives me $25. If you sign up using our link and pay for DigitalOcean at some point, you're going to get some free credit to get started. I'll get some free credit once you become a paying customer. And if you're in the business for self-hosting any sort of site, whether it's a WordPress site, a Discourse instance, your own personal VPN server, DigitalOcean is definitely the place that I would recommend. So again, go to yourownpay.com/DM40 and check out DigitalOcean for all of your cloud server needs.
I promise I won't change that URL to yourownpay.com/DM40 take 3.
So, kind of feedback have you been hearing from people? I've heard some feedback from people. Like, when are you guys going to record again? No, when are you guys going to put out another show again? Would you bitches?
Yeah. What happened to Damashe and Michael? Is that show over? No, we're still here.
It's just sporadic now.
Other feedback that I've gotten specifically is that people are enjoying the banter that we have back and forth, and I'm not going to use tech banter because that's another podcast name. But they like the personality that we put into the content that we're producing, and not just, this is the news story, this is going to work with Jaws.
Yeah, I don't think we could totally do that show. Yeah.
I couldn't.
That's why the show is called Damashe and Michael Just Talking Tech. Like, we could have named it something else, but we did start out with the intention of talking about the technology that we were using. If you go back and listen to like episode 1 or episode 2 or any of our early episodes, we did sort of kind of stick to that a little bit, but we figured out 2 things. One, we don't always have something interesting about tech to tell you. And 2, we would have a hell of a lot more interesting conversations when we weren't recording. So we decided, like, well, look, we'll just start talking, have a conversation, and try to keep it somewhat structured so that it makes sense when we're trying to edit. And we'll make that the show. So we're just talking tech and other stuff. Wow. That's good, though. I'm glad to get some sort of feedback on that.
We're dropping some interesting content over at Your Own Pay, which is fun. For those who don't know, we're recording this on a Tuesday. Yesterday, the second episode of Dreevy in the Dark dropped with Marlon. That's been amazing. I think we're sitting at 100 downloads roughly for each episode, and no one's done any promotion of it. So yeah, the only promotion that we've done is a little bit of keyword research and targeting Trinidad and Tobago. Roughly at 48 hits to the site per day, which is not bad. Like, I remember when I was happy when I got 10 hits to the site per day. And then people are spending about a minute and a half to 2 minutes on the site, but where they're clicking from is to go to media.blueberry.com links, which means that they're downloading content to either listen to it, or they're just clicking to download it to make me happy because that's what they want to do. So if that's you, keep doing it.
Interesting in Mailgun. Remember, does a
that clicks.domainname.extension don't work very well.
The reason that wasn't working is because it was going to a domain that it wasn't actually registered with. If that makes any sense. Like, we only had the Blind Employment Solutions domain registered, but that domain was supposed to be that link was supposed to be pointing people over to community.blindemployment.solution. Therefore it wasn't working because that domain was not even, I believe that's what the issue was. No, but it's not what I discovered. The only thing that told me is that I should probably make a checklist and make sure that before I start using a subdomain that needs to have its own custom email going through Mailgun, I should probably go and register the shit in Mailgun. That's what that told me. No, so remember Desiree asked about, could we build our own newsletter system? Because of the issues with ConvertKit and Sendinblue, which I sort of feel like a dumbass for recommending to so many people before I had actually spent a lot of time with it. I won't make that mistake again. Also, remember, while I'm telling you this, that I told you, I figured out that ConvertKit was using Mailgun as their actual email sending.
Yeah.
It's not as difficult as I thought it would be to do something with that. Because essentially they give you all of the pieces right there within Mailgun. You have tags, so that's probably how ConvertKit is using tags in your account. Is they're just using the tags that are built into Mailgun. They have newsletters. So unlike a thing that you can't do right now with ConvertKit, and people love MailChimp for this feature, or at least they used to. I don't know if it's still in MailChimp or not. But it's one of the reasons that I liked MailChimp even back in the days when I didn't like MailChimp. It was a feature that was like, hey, this is nice. You can create one of those custom email addresses that is, you can send blast emails to people. So what I've been tinkering with, I haven't started and really spent a whole bunch of time on it as of right now because there's too much other stuff that needs to be done. But I've looked into it, just looking through their documentation, like, so if I take this piece and that piece and put the thing together like this, I could basically do what ConvertKit is doing on the back end. Now, this would only be a custom solution. I'm not interested in trying to write a front end for this. And that still means the answer to Desiree's question is no, because it's like you got to write a front end if you're going to sell it to people as a service. But when it comes to development and building out somebody's infrastructure, it is possibly a feature that could be offered because we will be handling, or I will be handling, the entire development of their stack of software that they're using anyway. But it's interesting. It's super interesting because it allows you to tag people. You get all of the tracking information that you want as far as opens and clicks and all of that stuff. That's they like, seriously, what I'm looking at I'm looking at ConvertKit now with a whole different perspective, because it's like, geez, you guys basically had some decent coders that wrote a front end, probably using some out of the box framework to write your front end.
It's not even the best front end either.
That's the problem with frameworks in general, though. Is like if you don't know how to customize them, like, they tend to end up being horrible for accessibility. But I'm looking at ConvertKit a whole lot different, and like it's really making that $29 a month look a little goofy. I'm like, man, are you fucking serious? The fuck out of here.
So the moral of the story is if you have any tech know-how, maybe you should explore doing it on your own for yourself.
Remember,
not necessarily for others.
I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna put it in the show notes. It's the one where we were talking about servers and shared hosting and all of that. And I think I really kind of went on a little short mini rant about, I prefer to try to build stuff myself unless I just know I really can't do it. This sort of takes me back to that whole point, which is something that I had started to kind of slide away from, which is I'm not going to try to build that thing because it's probably more difficult than I think it is. And I don't feel like dealing with it. I got too much other shit to do. That being said, if you are looking for a email sending service because you're hosting your own sites using DigitalOcean, go check out Mailgun, man. Like, I like them. Their interface is reasonably accessible for a screen reader user. I can't speak to low vision people. I'm sorry. I don't know about the contrast. Check it out. Take a look for yourself. But if you need to send email from any type of website and you're hosting yourself on somewhere like DigitalOcean, Mailgun is probably the thing for you. Because let me tell you, you really don't want to build your own email server. Like, nobody wants to do this at all. And hey, Mailgun is free for up to your first 10,000 emails a month. That's 10,000 emails per month. Per month, man. Not in the lifetime of it. It's per month. And there's no goofy daily limit. You can only send 300 a day and we'll give you, no, you got 10,000 emails before they start charging you. And their actual plans are not bad. $15 a month, I don't think is ridiculous for 100,000 emails.
No, that's $14 cheaper than what I am currently. Hopefully not by the time this episode comes out paying. Anyways, the episode Damashe was talking about is DM18.
Hey, we're going to switch.
We'll link to it at yourownpay.com/DM40.
What's going on with this Android calendar, man?
Why would you bring that up?
I want to bitch about the iOS calendar.
So,
oh, shit.
Okay, we can go there. So I have not done too much work with Android Calendar. The most that I've done with Android Calendar was today when I pulled out my phone and opened Calendar to say, hey, what time is Damashe now recording? And then I realized, it does work quite nicely. So it's actually a mixed bag experience. How's iOS Calendar treating you?
Deal with built-in stuff in general. I do not like the iPhone calendar. I didn't like it when they first redesigned it. And I still don't like it. And specifically, and I'm going to try to outline specifically what I don't like about it, just in case somebody drops a comment in at yourownpay.com/DM40 or tweets at us and says, hey, dummy, do this. Cause I would love to hear somebody say, hey, dummy, do this. And solve these problems. So, number one, the entry manually is not as good as Fantastical. They do have some natural language, and I think it's better if you're trying to use natural language with Siri versus just the direct interface in the calendar, add a new event process. But that's not really the pain point because, whatever. The problem I have with it is when I'm looking at my events. Right. So I go open up the calendar and I'm looking at today and one, it shows me all of the time slots. I don't want to see the time slots. I just want to see a list of my events. Now you can spin the rotor and get to events and flick up and down and jump to your events. But I'll tell you what happened to me Friday.
Okay.
You got ready for our call. I'm on my iPhone. I'm going to use Zoom on the iPhone. So I open up the calendar app. I flick down to the event, BES Weekly Executive Meeting. I double tap on it and it shows me some information. And for some weird reason, now this could be a beta bug, so I'm willing to write that off. At the top, it shows me the date and time and all of that. And at the bottom of the screen, it's showing me all of the invitees and who accepted, who hadn't responded, etc. Right? Nowhere in this fucking interface could I click on the goddamn link to go to Zoom.
Yeah, that is very frustrating. With Android, I'll tell you, the Zoom link is a button that you can click and it'll ask you, unless you set it to always open Zoom links in Zoom, if you want to open it in Zoom, and it takes you right there. It's a very seamless process, and 10 minutes before your meeting, I've noticed that there's a button right on your lock screen that when you click on it, it pops open the event, and then you have to click on Zoom again. But it's pretty nice and pretty straightforward to get into your event. So
right? Because, you can, by default, Google tries to make all of your calendar events into Hangouts. You have to turn this off in G Suite. I don't know about regular Gmail people. I'm sorry. I don't use regular Gmail. Can't tell you nothing about it. But yeah, you do the same thing with calendar on the web, with Google Calendar on the web, right? Like you look at your event, there's a button right there that says, Zoom meeting. There's actually a plugin for Chrome if you're not, I don't use Zoom enough, but I did install a plugin anyway that will actually let you very quickly turn. And I think now, Mike, if you install some plugins, some Chrome extensions, that are for things like calendar or mail extensions, will also show up on mobile. Because I can remember.
If not in the Chrome app, I know specifically. Oh, that's what I was going to tell you. Kiwi Browser.
Yeah, no.
In Mail?
So like in Mail, I see a button in the bottom of Mail that says available in Mail when there's like an event or something in the body of the email for Zoom. That will let me, I guess, turn that into a Zoom link. Turn that into a Zoom meeting or send out a Zoom invite. There's some stuff going on there with Google, man, that is nice. And this shows up.
So it's like passing your extensions.
So like if you install the Zoom, I'll get you the actual extension and I will put it in the show notes as well. But I think I installed this into Gmail or into Calendar, one or the other. It wasn't like just a direct Chrome, Chrome extension. It's like it's something related to the Google apps themselves. But yeah, it shows up, and it actually shows up in the Gmail app on iOS as well. So like, Google is doing some interesting stuff. But never mind. Anyway, the Calendar on iOS sucks. Fantastic album for life.
Kiwi Browser is another browser you can install to experiment with. And that's what I guess is probably my favorite feature about Android is there's multiple different tools that you can use to get the job done. And some people might find that frustrating. They might just want to jump into the default mail app or just jump into the default calendar app. Me, on the other hand, I have no problem with trying some other things to see what works best. Kiwi Browser is another web browser, and it runs on the Chromium framework engine. Yeah, runs on the Chromium engine, and you can what appears to be very handy, and I haven't used it as much as I could, is you can run installed Chrome extensions on the browser. So if you have an extension that, for example, will go click all buttons on a web page, that's the first thing I could think of, or a different Chrome extension that you're using, you can run it mobilely on Kiwi Browser, unlike in the native Chrome apps that I've noticed. And then I'm also using Aqua Mail for mail, which if you have any experience with Android, you probably know that's available. Now, here's the gotcha with that. I still obviously, well, I can't say obviously because you can uninstall it. I do still have Gmail installed, mainly for the same reason that Damashe uses Gmail on iOS. So I can jump in there and quickly search up a message and be able to access that message. Because Aqua Mail search feature is, I would say, probably about as good as iOS Mail's search feature. I mean, it's not a pleasant experience.
Jeez, no, Aqua Mail is horrible.
But I do like to be able to tap and drag my finger down the left side and quickly select all of those messages on that screen to be able to delete them, and that's not available in Gmail natively. So,
Mike,
it's a combination of both apps.
Before we go, with your recommendations for Android, just to give us some things to drop into the show notes and also preparation for you for your next show, and because I need to know what can you remember of all the things that you told me I should look at on Android the whole time I've had this phone and have not done any of those things?
My first recommendations that come to mind are, and I'm running through my phone apps in my mind right now. Button Mapper is a amazing tool to allow you to be able to quickly map buttons.
Hold on, one sec. Hold on.
Real quick reason for that.
Write these down in the show notes too, so we don't forget them, and so I can. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, that too.
Download them. So Button Mapper, real quick reason why I like them is my USB-C headphones have a short in them. That's what happens when you use your headphones. I would say 18 out of 24 hours a day. And so I can't use the play pause button anymore on my headphones, and the right earpiece don't work anymore. I get one of these days I'm going to upgrade them. But Button Mapper lets me quickly set the volume key, hold the volume key down, for example, to quickly play pause, so I can still play pause my audio content. And then another app that I'm using is,
What are you using?
man, no.
What are you using?
Obviously,
for your launcher?
Todoist. I'm using Lawn Chair
Chair?
Launcher for right now. Yeah, Lawn Chair Launcher. There's another one that people really recommend. It's not the native Pixel launcher, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Hyperion.
Yeah, that's the one
I was
I'm
going to say, I
using
have
right
it
now is
installed.
Hyperion. I think I need to upgrade to the in-app purchase.
Check out Lawn Chair before you make that decision.
Carrot Weather. I'm going to shout out Carrot Weather. If you don't have Carrot Weather on your Android phone or you're using Android, something is wrong with you. You should get Carrot Weather on your iPhone.
Smart, man.
I mean, on your Android phone and on your iPhone.
Yes,
get
you
Carrot Weather on all the things. Man, it's what I'm trying to tell you.
I have a love-hate relationship with Pocket Cast right now. Mainly hate, but I still love it. The reason why I say hate is because you can't really modify some of the settings inside the podcast itself. So once you have your podcast set up, like I have my podcast set to play at 2x because I don't like to listen to people breathe. And so I can't go back and change it to 1.5x unless I grab a kid to do it for me because that screen's inaccessible. But I love the interface of it. If that
we
makes
should
sense.
drop a note to the folks over at Shifty Jelly. I think are the developers of Pocket Cast.
Thank you.
Definitely, because I have a
Yes,
Pocket Cast.
yes.
I have Pocket Cast on iOS and also bought Pocket Cast years ago on Android. So if they haven't charged for an upgrade, it is a nice podcast player. And
I'll admit I like the stats the best. Like that's probably my most favorite feature to show me how much time I waste listening to podcasts. I'm using Robinhood for stock trading. Love that app. And it is accessible on Android. I'm using Envision AI for scanning items. That's a good one. I do pay for that. And then I'm using Envision, Envision, I think. I'm obviously using Aira on Android, and that's a pretty useful tool. We're all over the place. I was trying to go through them in my head alphabetically. Lazarello, which is the app that I'm using in combination with Google Maps for GPS. Although I just discovered today when I got lost that maybe that's not a good
but you gotta tell
transition.
The story now.
But yeah, I discovered today that Lazarello will actually give you can, when you pick a destination in Lazarello, let's say you want to go to Smith's Bayway, which is the gas station I wanted to go to, and it'll say, or you can choose walking directions, for example. And then when you click that, like in Blind Square, it'll ask you what app do you want to use. And I just discovered that if you use the Lazarello app instead of Google Maps, Lazarello will give you step-by-step directions and tell you in 42 feet at the corner of Central and Main Street, continue forward. So it gives you pretty detailed directions. I don't know which one's better because Google Maps has improved, and I want to play around a little bit with the Google Maps AR and see how that experience is.
How in the hell am I supposed? How do you swipe things away? Like it used to work for me in P, where I could do like,
2-finger swipe up.
So if I got a notification and I touch the
touch
notification and I'll do a 2-finger swipe up, that's supposed to throw it away. Okay, I don't think I should try the 2-finger swipe up. In P, I was doing
give that a try.
Swipe left. I think 2-finger swipe left, and that was getting it done for some reason. It changed?
So, I believe it did. I know that 2-finger swipe up is working just fine for me on notifications and App Switcher to close those apps. And then, of course, there's the clear button that you can get to by swiping up and down. I know that sounds weird, but you swipe up, down in one motion. That'll take you to the first most recent item, or down and up, and that'll take you to the last item. And eventually there's a clear button on your notifications or your recent apps that you can choose on both of those. The other app that I wanted to mention is Instacart. I'm using that on Android when I feel like being lazy. I'm not using it a whole bunch anymore. And then the native Twitter app on Android is my solution for the time being. And I have not found an equivalent Reddit app. Someone suggested an app called Joey for Reddit, and I'm not happy with it. So I'm going to look into something else. Although Dystopia's kind of spoiled me when it comes to Reddit. So.
App Store. No. What? Yeah, I'm gonna go tweaking though and find out what's going on, because like he's got to put that app out, man. That is like the.
Yeah, that is an amazing tool. I think it would help transition blind individuals.
It would, because I've spent more time in Reddit. Even when I couldn't log into Reddit, before Mike told me, just go create a new account, dude. I really wanted to get back into my old account because it was Damashe, and I like to be me everywhere on the internet, not some random person that nobody knows.
Right.
Everywhere, on the internet, like I am on Reddit. Nobody know. I don't even know my username on Reddit, so I can't even tell you, how to find me because I don't remember my username. But I've spent a lot of time, like I've actually started searching out conversations like blind developers looking for different things, because like I'm running into some issues with certain aspects of using Git, like branch merging. Well, not really branch merging. Let me not say that in case somebody's listening and they're like, well, this is what a branch merge is. No, I know how to merge a branch. I know how to merge two separate branches. What I'm running into problems with is doing diffs of things, or handling merge conflicts. And essentially what that is say I'm working on the feature for your own pay where we're going to have, testimonials. I don't think we're doing testimonials, but that's the first thing that came to mind, because everybody always wants testimonials. I don't know why. Nobody reads them. And they annoy me. But anyway, say we want testimonials. So I branch off and make that a feature branch. And once I get everything working with the testimonials, I want to merge that back into, the main branch so I can push it to staging so Mike can take a look at it. Well, if there is a significant change between a couple of files, I'm going to run into what's called a merge conflict, because I've changed something on one side or the other has significantly changed enough that it can't just be merged in. Usually it's the same data that is slightly different. Like say one thing is WordPress, 5.2.2. And when I started on the feature branch, it was at WordPress 5.2.1. So it's not going to automatically merge that, because it's not going to attempt to be smart. Git is not going to be attempt to be smart enough to say, oh, well, you just updated WordPress like that. That may not, and this may be a bad example because I haven't actually dealt with that. But it still stands. So what would happen is I would have a conflict, and I would have to resolve that conflict before it would complete the actual merge. Problem is, there are not a lot of good tools that I have found that are voiceover usable on the Mac for looking at the differences in a file and actually being able to easily merge them. To say, hey, I want the information from file A here, and then in this section, I want the information from file B to be the actual correct information. It's a pain in the ass. Fortunately, I don't get into that situation all that often, although I did just spend about an hour and a half today manually, painstakingly merging some stuff from upstream. But anyway.
Once you learn how to automate, anything seems manual and painstaking.
Mike, but this was so. You're partially right. You're mostly right about that. But here's the thing. I know that I know that there are tools that sighted people can use, and I have some of these tools that have the features there where you basically can click your mouse on. So it will show you a tree, right? Let's say you have two files that have a conflict and you're trying to merge them together. You're just trying to merge two different files together, right? They're mostly the same, but there are some conflicted differences. One tool that actually did a very good job of describing how it will lay out the diff merge for you. Right down the center of the screen would be all of the information that was fine. Like there's no conflicts here with any of this information. On the left hand side, off to the side just a little bit, would be any conflicted information that was originally there. So your original file that you started with, here's that information on the left. On the right, slightly off to the right, will be any conflicted information. So if you had WordPress 5.2.1, that would be slightly out to the left. And if you had WordPress 5.2.2, that would be slightly off to the right. Now, as a sighted person, you would just click your mouse on the 5.2.2 and that would say, okay, I want to accept that actual version. Just in this specific location in the file. Somewhere else, you may want to take a change from the left side in the file. So it's not as simple as just say, hey, copy the thing from one side to the other, because I really know breaking stuff. It's difficult. It's developer shit. Nobody's talking about it on Twitter, not that I found. But I have started digging around Reddit. I've started digging around Reddit and finding out different things, as well as the fact that, hey, if you're interested in programming and you're blind, people are looking for blind programmers right now. So all you college kids that are taking your CS or thinking about taking, computer science of some sort, get on that. Because they figured out that, hey, if we have blind people doing the development, then the thing is probably going to be accessible when we get it out the door because there's a blind person working on it. Imagine that.
And accessible typically means a simple or easy to use user interface that everyone is pretty much happy with.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.